Hey there, welcome. You know that feeling? Every year, we get a little weaker. It feels inevitable, right? Like a law of nature. But what if it's not? What if there's a single break inside our own cells? And what if we could learn how to release it? Today, we're digging into the science that could let us fight back against one of the key drivers of aging.
Just think about that for a second. That slow, steady decline in strength? What if it wasn't a short thing? What if we could actually understand the how and the why behind it so well that we could step in and strategically do something about it? Well, that is exactly what we are going to break down in this explainer.
I mean, it's something we all experience, right? As the years tick by, you just notice that gradual loss of strength, of power. But here's the thing, this isn't just a feeling. Nope, it's a real, documented biological process. And it even has a name.
And that name is sarcopenia. The words to really focus on here are progressive and involuntary. This isn't something you choose, it just happens. It's actually a geriatric syndrome, officially recognized as a disease, and it basically describes that steady, relentless erosion of our muscle as we get older.
And listen, this is not some rare, obscure condition. We're talking about something that affects a huge chunk of the population. Look at this. Somewhere between 10 and 30% of all adults over the age of 60 are dealing with this. That makes it a massive, and I mean massive public health challenge. And the consequences? They're serious. This isn't just about not being able to lift heavy things anymore. Sarcopenia is a direct line to things like a much higher risk of falls, of fractures, and ultimately, a loss of the very independence that we all value so much. So you can see why figuring out what drives this is so important. So it turns out this decline isn't just random wear and tear. Decades of research have started pointing to a single culprit, a sort of master regulator, a single molecule that acts like a powerful brake on our muscle growth. Yeah, and this quote just hits the nail on the head. A master negative regulator. I love that. Think about it, a biological brake that our own bodies use to actively hold our strength back. And that brake, the villain of our story today, is a protein called myostatin.
So what is myostatin? You might also see it called GDF8. It's a protein made by our own muscle cells, and its entire job, its only job, is to put the brakes on growth. It's the little molecular signal that whispers to our muscles, okay, that's enough, stop, don't get any bigger.
You know, the story of how they found this thing is just incredible. Back in 1997, some researchers made these mice that were missing the myostatin gene, and the result was, well, it was astonishing. They created these mighty mice that had like double the muscle of normal mice. This one discovery just blew the whole field wide open. It proved that if you could just find a way to release this biological brake, you could unleash some seriously incredible muscle growth. Okay, so how does this brake actually work on a molecular level? I mean, how can one little protein bring the entire system of muscle growth to a grinding halt? Let's follow the clues. We're going to trace the signal from start to finish. All right, I know this pathway looks a little complex, but trust me, it really boils down to 4 pretty clear steps. First up, binding. Think of myostatin as a key. It finds its specific lock, the ActR2IB receptor, right there on the surface of the muscle cell. Step 2, activation. The key turning in the lock triggers a chain reaction inside the cell. Then step 3, transmission. The message gets passed along to these courier proteins called Smad2 and Smad3. And finally, the last step, execution. These Smad proteins march right into the nucleus, the cell's command center, and they just switch off the genes that are supposed to be driving muscle growth. Job done.
And this is what makes myostatin just so brutally effective. It's not just doing one thing, it's a full-on two-pronged attack. On one hand, it blocks the main pathway for building new muscle. That's the AKT-mTOR pathway. But at the exact same time, it activates other pathways that promote muscle breakdown. So it's not just stopping construction, it's literally calling in the wrecking crew.
Okay, so now that we understand the mechanism, we can start to get strategic, right? We know what the brake is, we know how it works. So the big question becomes, how do we release it? And this is where we get our strategic playbook, our longevity cheat sheet, if you will. We have options. We can try to inhibit the brake signal itself, that's myostatin, or we could block the brake pedal, the receptor it needs to bind to. We could even try to cut the brake cable, those Smad proteins. And while we're doing all that, we can also amplify the body's own good guys, like a protein called follistatin, and basically just slam our foot on the accelerator of the growth engine. And all this science has opened up a whole new toolbox of potential therapies. The really cutting-edge stuff is pharmacological.
For example, scientists can design antibodies that go in and just neutralize myostatin directly. Or they can create these things called ligand traps, which are basically decoys that float around and soak up all the myostatin before it can do any harm. And there are even drugs that just physically block the receptor so that myostatin key, well, it just can't fit in the lock anymore.
But hold on, because here's where the story takes a really interesting turn. This isn't just about building bigger muscles. It turns out we're actually tapping into one of the core regulatory networks of aging and our overall health span.
Which leads to this critical question, one that clinical trials have been bumping up against. The results so far have been, well, both promising and kind of perplexing. The big question is, sure, you can build more muscle mass, but does that automatically mean you've defeated aging? Can you actually restore its youthful function? And this is where we run smack into the true complexity of aging. See, the early trials were a bit of a puzzle. The drugs worked. They blocked myostatin, and people gained a significant amount of muscle mass. But, and this is a big but, that new muscle often didn't translate into more strength. It's what researchers now call the mass function paradox. So what's going on? Well, the theories are that just blocking the brake isn't the whole story. It might mess with our ability to build new mitochondria, the power plants of our cells, or maybe the new mass is just low quality, built from old, dysfunctional parts instead of new, powerful proteins. It's a classic reminder that in biology, quantity and quality are absolutely not the same thing.
But the deepest connection here, the real link to longevity, comes from the pathway itself. Remember that mTOR pathway we talked about, the one that myostatin shuts down? Well, it turns out that's not just some simple muscle growth engine. mTOR is one of the most studied, most central regulators of aging and lifespan in all of biology. Full stop. So by targeting myostatin, we're not just messing with muscles. We are directly interacting with a core pillar of the entire aging process.
And that leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to end on. Myostatin is one powerful biological brake that we're finally learning how to release strategically. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other brakes are built into our biology, holding back our body's true potential for regeneration, for resilience? And as we continue to decipher these incredible pathways, you have to ask, how many more of these brakes are we about to release in our quest for a longer and much, much healthier life?